Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. Thanks for tuning in. We're running a little experiment tonight, so if there's some additional buffering or stream issues, then don't be too shocked. Hopefully it works. Hopefully it works well, but we will see. Tonight I'm going to talk about the crumbling of the tech giants, and it's based on a conversation that I had today. I was on the InfoWars show briefly with Alex Jones and a gentleman formerly of Google, and the latter confirmed something that I suspected for a while now, but I wasn't, I didn't have any direct information about it. Although, the logic was pretty clear. And, to let you know what I'm talking about here, think about your favorite TV show. Think about when a TV show first airs. A good TV show, one that is popular, one that you like. The dialogue is snappy, the plots are clever, and everything about it is well done. And this goes for a season, 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky. And then it starts to go downhill a little bit. It starts to get a little bit lame. The dialogue becomes predictable. The characters become caricatures of themselves. You look, whether you look at The Office, whether you look at Friends, whatever you look at. And James Pirate said, "Welcome to season 5 of popular television show. Subtitle: We're out of ideas." That's not necessarily it. The real problem, in many cases, can be seen if you look at the credits. It's the same thing when you look at the sequel, especially the third sequel to a popular movie. It's the new writers. And there's various reasons for this. Mechanic. Sometimes it's just that the writers have moved on. They get a better job offer. Maybe they're the number 3 writer, but because they're the number 3 writer on a hit show, they get the chance to move up to be the number 1 writer on their own show. Or another problem, especially on the movie side, is that everybody wants to be part of a winner. Everybody wants to be involved with a winner. And so what they do is they latch onto it, and then of course they start interfering with it. In any case, the quality of the show goes downhill because the quality of the talent involved is simply not what it was before. So now apply that to the tech giants. You look at Facebook, you look at Google, you look at all these different organizations. Google and YouTube specifically, I can tell you right now, their attempt to move on to a new interface to get rid of the Creator Studio Classic, as they call it, and move it to whatever it is, YouTube content beta or whatever it's called. I mean, it's terrible. I literally find it difficult to figure out how to do what I want to do. And I've done 463 of these live streams. No decent interface should make it difficult more difficult for somebody who has that level of experience with something. And so, why is this happening? It's because the people that made something work great is, they're no longer there. They're no longer involved. They're no longer responsible. And yeah, Cabeza is quoting my wife. She always says, "Honey, Skype is enhancing my user experience again," which basically means they broke something and she wants me to figure it out. Is it possible they do it deliberately to discourage the authors? I mean, it's theoretically possible, but it's absolutely unlikely. I mean, this happens all the time. It's very well known. In fact, I've even read a statistic that says if you revamp a website, you will lose 25% of your users. That's one reason why I've never bothered trying to revamp or modify the blog. I just leave it alone. And the funny thing is, Blogger updated to a new interface long after I had created my blog. And the funny thing was, I couldn't recreate the useful 3-column approach where I have, the left side of systems get worse over time. I'm from the game world. New games are always supposed to get better. What I wanted to do. So I refused to upgrade it. Still doesn't upgrade it. And so that's what we're beginning to see. We're beginning to see the equivalent of, bit rot. We're beginning to see these converged corporations lose their ability to perform their basic function. Part of it is because they're converged, and so they're focusing on how to, they're focusing on other things. They're focusing on their diversity, on their inclusivity, on their equality, all that sort of thing. You've got less competent people trying to do the programming. You've got less competent people doing the designing. Another problem that they almost certainly have is that nobody eats their own dog food. It would astonish you to know what percentage of people at a tech company utilize their own products. There's probably virtually no one at YouTube who actually runs the YouTube channel. They're too busy, doing whatever it is they do, instead of making it work better. My dad had a company that was entirely based on a software package called AutoCAD. His company made the first high-resolution color graphics card. We were doing 1024, 768, 256 color graphics back when everybody else was still doing green screens. And he built up a very successful business on that. But I was really astonished when I graduated from college and I started working there. And I started asking around. They had over 100 employees in the US alone. There were a bunch more over in Ireland at the time. And I started asking around because they were discussing new features. What features should we create? What should we do? And I said, well, what do the AutoCAD users want? And nobody seemed to know. Everybody was talking about the AutoCAD users as if they were talking about theory. Like well, I think that they would want this. I think, and it suddenly became very clear to me that nobody actually used it. Nobody knew how to use it. And so I did a survey, and this was right when the first 3D Studio had come out. And it was amazing how out of over 100 employees, there were 2 people who actually used AutoCAD in any significant fashion. It was amazing. No wonder we couldn't figure out what people wanted to do. Yeah, Photoshop right now is at that point. Photoshop is still the best for what it's doing. Things like the GIMP are fairly powerful, but they've got the problem of being run by programmers. So programmers always do things in a way that make things easier and more efficient for them, rather than paying any attention to how people who are actually using the the product want to use it. So, it's really amazing to me how unusable most video editing software is. All you need to do, all I want to do is right click. I want to just chop off part of a file. You should be able to just right click where you want to do it, and then that would be the easy way to do it. But you have to jump through hoops and watch a YouTube video just to figure out how to clip a file, to clip an audio file. It's insane. And that tells me that nobody's eating the dog food. Nobody's actually using this for its primary purpose. And that's what we're beginning to see now with these aging tech giants. The really smart people who got involved at the beginning, who started at the beginning. And granted, it does take a different mentality to be a successful startup guy than to grow it to a large size, take it public, and then it takes yet another skill set to run a company like that successfully. And that's not even getting into the whole corrupt aspect of it, where you have to make sure that the people who are in charge have sacrificed to the right demons and all, or have sold their souls or done the right handshake or whatever it is to get the giant contracts that keep them going. There's level after level of complexity here. But even at the most simple level, you can see that the executives they have now are not up to par with the people that started it. Someone like Eric Schmidt, he's a very smart guy. I suspect that he's much smarter than the people who are running it now. The problem is none of those guys are, they've made all the money that they can possibly ever spend. So now they're all focused on trying to figure out life extension and acquire little Haitian boys or whatever it is, whatever awful, dreadful things that they're into, or whatever harmless things they're into. They're busy doing that. They're not at all concerned with trying to improve the product of the company that they used to work for, that they used to run. And you can see how fast the people move on. At Indiegogo, the CEO, the general counsel, 2 of the VPs, they're all gone. Um, more like Tim Cooked. Yeah, you look at the difference between a visionary like Steve Jobs and a manager like Tim Cook. Um, it's very clear that they're not going to be capable of maintaining their position. Logos Rising asks, any way to get Owen streams up the same day? Probably not. Think about how long Owen's streams are. So you have to upload it, then it has to process, and those things just take time. So it's not reasonable to expect them to get processed, to get uploaded and processed and be available in a short period of time. Welcome, Overbear. Yeah, I mean, I would say my guess is that Adobe is probably the first of these very large, very successful software companies to go downhill. Do you have any guess as to when you'll be free to tell us what the Indiegogo resolution was? In about 2 years. I plan on doing an extended edition of Corporate Cancer. I'm going to write about the situation in corporate cancer to the extent that I can, because it's very relevant, but I'm not going to go into any details of the resolution. All I can say is that we've appear to have reached a mutually satisfactory resolution, and we'll be moving forward on that basis. So, welcome Overbear, welcome Dogwood Bear, and welcome OKC Bear. Obviously, somebody who'd asked about the channel memberships, obviously the channel memberships are working. Does Steve Jobs deserve the praise he received? Yes. I mean, look at what happened to Apple after he left, and then look how he turned around again when he came back. So, Be a Good Bear says, I've heard a few streams ago about the UATV bandwidth problem. Any chance anyone's abusing it? No, there was no abuse. It was a simple matter of you guys breaking the model for how much a subscriber is expected to watch. All these hosting and server companies have models that are based on their experience. If you have 300 subscribers, you'll use this much bandwidth. If you have 10,000 subscribers, you'll use that much. And so you guys it's a combination of the fact that Owen goes on for a long time. Even my streams are relatively long, and you guys tend to watch, not all of them, but you tend to watch enough of them that the time adds up. And so, I mean, the numbers are, from compared to the norm, the numbers are ridiculous. We've gone over them, and it's downright funny. So kudos to you all. Yeah, Duralex said Lex is correct. They just didn't expect us to watch that much content that quickly. Precisely. Most people watch short videos. That's right. The average video time, if you look at any statistics and stuff, you can see that most people, when they watch videos, they watch less than a minute. So imagine how much it breaks the system when you sit there and you watch Owen ranting for 2 hours, or even if you just sit down and watch me for 20 minutes. You multiply that by the number of subscribers that we have, and it just got out of hand. But fortunately, we came up with a solution. It's all good. There we go. Jacob McCallop said, "Didn't Steve Jobs' partner do most of the actual work? Jobs just told other people what to do." You don't understand how difficult it is for people that do actual work to know what they should be doing. Look at my old band, Psychosonic. Paul Sebastian has more musical talent in his little finger than I have probably in my entire genetic line going back to my great-great-great-great-grandfather. He can do anything. He can play anything. You want him to write a symphony, he'll write a symphony. You want him to write a techno groove, he'll do a techno groove. He can do anything. He can play any instrument. I mean, at one point, I remember saying sarcastically that we were talking to some girls when we were out, and I said, I said he's a musical genius. They're like, "Oh, really?" It's like, yeah, he can play all the instruments, and they're like, "Really? All the instruments?" He's like, yeah. I said, "Well, except of course the flugelhorn." I said he can't play the flugelhorn. And then Paul's girlfriend said, "Actually, he has a flugelhorn, and he can play it." But if you look at what he did, what he recorded after we worked together, he never really did that much stuff. In fact, when he did record something afterwards, it was actually a song that we wrote together. One of our best ones. Why? Because he had the analysis. He had the musical version of analysis paralysis. He could do anything. He does best when he's paired with somebody else who says, "I want to do this." And then he can say, "Okay, there we go." And so what Steve Jobs did was he provided the vision. And vision is much, much harder, especially a compelling vision is much, much harder to develop than simply being able to do something. It's much more rare. I mean, that people don't necessarily like to think about that, but it's true. It really is true. So, welcome, Starving Bear. It's kind of sad. I don't. Why is it that bears that are too skinny look disturbing in a way that like other animals don't? Maybe it's because they look a little bit human or something. I don't know. Spiderbip says, "That's so true. Most people do nothing unless told at my company." Yeah, it's really remarkable how little people do. How you've got these corporations of thousands of people, and practically nobody is actually doing anything. They're all just shifting papers and numbers, from one place to the other. It's a bunch of make work. So, anyhow, let me see, make sure I haven't missed any super chats here. Okay. Richard says, "Describe the hardest struggle you've had to fight through. How did you break through? On hindsight, what would you do differently?" I think for me, the hardest thing was when a family member was ill, and there was nothing I could do about it. And I dealt with it by throwing myself into my work. And maybe it was the right thing to do. Maybe it wasn't. But I wish, in retrospect, that I had been able to provide more emotional support to the others involved. It's not my strength. I'm sure that's a shock to you all. There's a helplessness that you feel when friends, family, people that you know well, when they fall ill. And there's also a natural tendency to pull away from them. No, I didn't do that in this case. But I've definitely done it in other cases. And I try to be aware of that now and not do that. Not pull away from people emotionally when they are not doing well. It's normal. We have a natural tendency. It doesn't matter whether whether it's an old dog or whether it's a friend or a friend's child or whatever. We don't want to wallow in. Most of us who are healthy psychologically don't want to wallow in the pain, and so we naturally tend to avoid it because we're, as humans, we try to avoid pain. And sometimes people want to be left alone. Sometimes people don't. There are a lot of people who don't. But I think it's important to try to make yourself available to, to really be there when people or animals are fading away. And so that's I think what was the most difficult thing for me. I've been pretty fortunate in general. The thing with my dad was a lot less difficult than most people would have thought, just because I was on a different continent. I wasn't around. You hear about it, you know about it, but it's not like right in your face. So Hans Log says $2 early fee. Thumbs up. Big Rig Fix says, I live in a big city. Should I sell my house now? In your opinion, I have a good amount of money in equity. Thanks for all that you do. I would not want to live in a big city now. I think that it's probably a very good time to find somewhere else to live. If you have a chance to get out and move somewhere that's less expensive and gives you more options. We're about to publish a book called Urban Apocalypse. I highly recommend that you pick it up. It's really good. Piero San Giorgio is one of the authors. This is his area. He knows what he's talking about. One of the translators was saying, send me 3 copies. I have people I need to send this to. I think that you should read it when it comes out. Cowboy Bear says, I'm wicked smart and can do anything and have hundreds of hours of footage just sitting there. No one can use Vegas Pro 16. I assume he means like me. I've even contacted professionals. Congratulations. That doesn't strike me as a question. Mike Lassiter said, happy belated birthday from the St. Louis Proud Boys. Well, it's always nice to hear from the... Oh wait. No, thank you. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed seeing people come down hard on Andrew Clavin's slandering of you guys. Dogwood Bear says, Vox, could you do a stream on the historical accuracy and possible scientific explanation of the plagues of Egypt in the Old Testament? I don't think so, because I'm not a scientist. I am certainly not an expert on the plagues of Egypt, and I don't think that there is any reason to have to come up with a materialist explanation for everything. I believe that miracles happen. I believe in that which is beyond the material and beyond the natural. So I don't feel any need to explain away these things. Bezomax says, since platforms disappear, where would you suggest someone start writing opinion pieces? Medium makes me want to vomit. I've been using Blogger for, 16 years. It's all backed up, of course, and everything. You know, I would say just start, if you want something safe, start your own WordPress site. You don't need to use something like Medium. Why use a site like Medium? What does it buy you? It doesn't buy you anything. So just set up your own WordPress site on your own server. Austin Roberts just wanted to say thanks for all the content on Unauthorized. You're very welcome. Jay Stank says, a friend of mine is one of the disabled veterans who received the student loan debt forgiveness. That was a big move by Trump. Huge move by Trump. His reaction was straight out of the New Testament and the servant who was forgiven much by his master. Good for him. That's exactly right. That's exactly, I mean, gratitude and the attempt to pass on that which is given to us is one of the most important things that we can instill in our children and in future generations. You know, if you don't have the ability to say thank you to someone who does something for you. I mean, if you notice, I try to thank everybody who does a super chat. Doesn't matter if it's $1, if it's $100. It's literally the thought that counts. I mean, yes, the material thing is very useful. We need it. We use it. But the most important thing is to make sure that people understand that we are genuinely grateful and appreciative for their continued support. You know, I know people hear that, you know, everybody gets sick of the celebrities going, oh, it's all about the fans. I'm all for the fans. And then, of course, you know, they're not even willing to, like, you know, take a picture with their fans when they're out and stuff. I mean, we all know that there's often some level of hypocrisy and fake gratitude and that sort of thing. But I can assure you that's not the case here. You know, we listen to what you guys are saying. You know, we, you know, actively discuss, you know, what we can do to make things better and so forth. Submitted to Christ said, did you play either of these, Sid Meier's Pirates or Masters of Orion? I've played Masters of Orion. I even have the sort of re-engineered version of it. I didn't play Sid Meier's Pirates, not much. I think I played like, you know, like I think I took a quick look at it, but I didn't actually sit down and play it. But I've actually played more Master of Magic than Masters of Orion. My son's a big Masters of Magic fan. In fact, he would like to program a recreation of it. Corbett Plastering says, any advice for aspiring city warlords post-collapse? I would say make sure that you have a way to pay your warriors. You know, that's always the big problem that warlords face. Great Odin's Raven said, any thoughts on CEO of Overstock.com resigning over deep state comments? If not yet, blog upcoming. I saw something about that, but I don't really know what's going on with that. I mean, I remember he said something and some people were, what, let me see here. What did he do? Let's see. It says he resigned after disclosing romance. Caused a stock runoff. Oh, I see. He issued a press release entitled Comments on Deep State that claimed he helped the FBI carry out political espionage. Coming forward publicly about my involvement was hardly my first choice. I now plan on leaving things to the esteemed Department of Justice. Oh, and he had an intimate relationship with accused Russian agent Maria Butina. Interesting. Anyhow, I think that it may be related. It may be related to. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of CEOs resigning, stepping down, vanishing. There was a CEO in England who hanged himself yesterday. So there do seem to be a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. There seems to be this, whether you buy into Q or anything like that, there really does seem to be a tremendous amount of activity taking place among the big fish, and we minnows have no idea what's going on. We can just see that there's a lot of splashing around in the water. Hopefully the good guys are winning. Hopefully there are good guys. Christopher McCullough says, is subscription-based software a good idea? Yes and no. It's a great idea for making money. We've sold books for years. Books don't do nearly as well as subscriptions. Unauthorized has been around for 5 months now, and it's already considerably, it's more than twice as big already than Castalia. It makes sense in a way. In if you think about it, there's probably 10 times more people that are willing to pay for a video than are willing to pay for a book. So do the math. But, when you have a subscription, you're able to keep bringing in the money, whereas when you just sell a product, it just becomes all cost. You can't spend any money on fixing this stuff in the future because you've already received all the money you're ever going to receive. So there are some advantages. Like, for example, I think that I love subscription-based games like World of Warcraft. I think it's a wonderful model for things like that. World of Warcraft charging me $15 a month or whatever it was, $12 a month, back when I was playing it, that was probably the least expensive activity I could do. That was probably the best value of anything that I did that wasn't completely free. If you just looked at the number of hours that I spent playing WoW and divided it by 15, I was paying pennies per hour. But it worked out great for World of Warcraft too, because every month they had that $15 coming in. But I think that there's a problem because it's so easily abused. For example, with unauthorized, one reason I think that we have such a low churn rate, month to month, we lose very, very few subscribers. And I appreciate that. We've talked about how great it is that everything just keeps growing and growing and growing reliably. But I think that's in part because we are showing a commitment to constantly bringing in new content every day. If you're an unauthorized subscriber, you know that there's going to be an hour from me. It's going to be 2 hours from Owen. And there's also going to be stuff from David Good. There's going to be, once or twice a week, stuff from Chuck Dixon, once a week, medieval history. And then we've got the documentaries and the audiobooks, and so forth. But Taffy points out that World of Warcraft has gone the same way that we're talking about the tech giants going. The same way that we're talking about the old TV shows going. All the originals at Blizzard are gone. The company's been converged. And now it's not as entertaining anymore. And so I think that if you're going to do something on a subscription model, then you have to actually deliver new content regularly. Arc Logo said people subscribing to unauthorized are down for the cause. They are. They definitely are. And I know that, and I appreciate that. But I don't think that we would have the extremely low level of churn if it weren't for the fact that we keep working at improving it. We keep producing more content, and then we're adding new content. I mean, within 6 weeks, we will introduce our first documentary, and it's just going to keep getting better. Somebody asked about a comic subscription. We can't do that because I can't keep up the pace. I can't guarantee that we can deliver a comic a month. And so I'm not going to, I would love to go to that. I would love to be able to do that. We would make more money doing that than just trying to, to sell each new one as it comes. But if I can't deliver, I'm not going to let people purchase something that I just flat out can't deliver. I already am not delivering enough Voxiversities. But one step at a time. The more people that subscribe, the more resources we have, and the more that we are able to keep adding new content and keep doing new stuff. Vox Day Respecter said, one day Throne of Bones will get a graphic novel treatment. I have the faith of a mustard seed. It will. It absolutely will. No question. Dindu Ski Free said, do you think Tucker Carlson is shouting out your streaming platform when he uses the word unauthorized? Owen believes this, no joke. Is he delusional? Let's just say that I have reason to believe that Owen is not delusional. I think that would be the best way to put it. ETA for unauthorized on Roku, I don't know. They're working on it. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to put myself on a production schedule that allows me to get the stuff done that I need to get done. So, right now I'm working on the Rebels Run script with Chuck Dixon. I'm writing Alt Hero. I'm working on the Sea of Skulls. I'm working on Corporate Cancer. And then we're doing this. Plus, we're publishing other books, editing other books. I mean, we've got a novel, really good novel by John Delarose called Alt Hero Covert that I'd like to get out, but I need to get through it and make sure that everything lines up properly with Alt Hero. Plus, I just finished writing Alt Hero number 7. I'm writing Alt Hero number 8. There's just a lot of stuff to do. And it's a good problem to have. I like having a problem where, people want this content. People are willing to support this content. If people weren't supporting it, if people weren't paying for it and buying it, we could just drop it. But we can't because people want it. When does Sea of Skulls come out on audio? Once I finish the extended edition. Jeremy is currently recording Summa Helvetica and Other Stories, and hopefully I will finish the book by the time he's ready to start on that. What's your favorite ever comedy show? I would say that the show that I probably thought was the funniest was Yes Minister, the English television show. Yeah, Tucker's a good guy. Um, it's astonishing that there are people at Fox that don't want him there. Um, but that's the way the Converge think. They're not thinking in terms of they just assume that success exists. They just assume that the world is going to continue paying their bills no matter what happens, and so that's why they think they can get involved with convergence and so forth. Christopher McCullough says there's a bright side to big tech failing. Skynet's going to be tripping over itself like Robert Petrie in a field of Ottomans. I'll take your word for that. Actually, another show that I like is, what's the one with Dara O'Brien? Not Whose Line Is It Anyway, but that's a good show. That's a funny show. I tend to enjoy English humor more than American TV humor. Yeah, I know about Murdoch's kids, um, but the thing is, if Tucker gets pushed out, he's going to go from success to massive, super beyond success. You know, I mean, obviously, we'd be more than happy to have him on unauthorized. We should look into streaming payments using Coil. It uses Ripple's digital asset XRP for micropayments. That's like just total gibberish as far as I'm concerned. Maybe you're right. I'll look into it. I'm totally unfamiliar with Coil, Ripple, and XRP. So, Mock the Week. That's it. Yeah. I like Mock the Week with Frankie Boyle on it was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. What do you think of deep fakes? Well, I'm sure they were inevitable. I don't think anybody's surprised that they exist. Um, I think my only real surprise about them is that um, I I don't understand why people are wasting their time creating deep fakes with pretty much anyone but Kate Beckinsale. Um, I did watch Japanese TV while I was there. The shows were crazy. They were. I mean, I can't believe that. I mean, I didn't when I came back. Two things that I did not expect to ever see in the West were karaoke. I did not expect to see karaoke become popular. And I really, really did not expect to see Takashi's Castle on Western TV. If you haven't seen Takashi's Castle, it's hysterical. Basically, it's like a game show where they, like American Ninja Warrior, only instead of people doing things one at a time, they have like 200 people all run out and try to do something, and like most of them fail and just go down, and it's just crazy. Um, did you hear the Dune movie is race swapping Chani with a black girl? Oh, good lord. I did hear that Liet Kynes was being gender swapped. Just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Boyle got cucked. Well, the thing you got to remember about Frankie Boyle is that he was always like a hard left wing Scottish socialist. So it was only a matter of time before he ended up getting neutered somehow. Will getting a Roku allow me to watch unauthorized on my old TV? Not yet. Don't do it yet. Sam Prochansky said, obviously, I know you can't answer that question about Tucker. I recently upgraded up the subscription to the $10 membership. Keep fighting the good fight. Well, thank you very much. It's always good to see. It's always good to see that. Um, Appreciate that. All right. Well, we've I think we've covered everything that we planned to cover. So I'm just trying to think if we have any housekeeping to discuss. Channel members, especially gold channel members, please be sure to send an email. I'm going to be scheduling the first book review very soon, probably this weekend. Uh, if you're a new member and you want to get the notifications, make sure you send me your email. I do not get your email just because you signed up as a channel member. This is just another example of the insane way that, I mean, this is just another example of bit rot. Um, and if you want to read a book, a very interesting book about what we call algo decay, algorithmic decay, which is conceptually related to this tech rot that we're talking about, um, go on unauthorized and listen to the extended audio sample of corrosion. First of all, I think you'll enjoy it, but it gets into some of the implications and the consequences to a society that has become completely dependent upon technology, and then the technology starts to become unreliable. Um, it's a spin on Asimov's foundation that I think you'll find is not just intelligent but also entertaining. So have a look at that. And again, it's just more content up there, and I'm hoping to get a couple more audiobooks up there soon. So, well, that's all I've got for tonight. So have a good evening. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.